Okay, it's been a while since we've covered off some of the items of the driving test in Joondalup and some of the things that people get wrong. So today we're just going to do a bit of a run around Joondalup, just covering off some of the main points. Now the first thing is it's very important to indicate left here. Quite often you've got cars waiting to come into the car park and they need to be aware of what you intend to do. And the very next thing is making sure that you stop at the stop line up here. So we come to the stop line, we don't look around while we're approaching, we stop completely and then we look around and make sure it's clear. If you have a look as you're approaching the stop line, you're going to get distracted and there's always the chance you might roll through. If you roll through, you break the law. If you break the law, you fail your test. So it's very important to have a good strategy for stop signs and stop lines, and that is making sure you focus on one thing, which is that stop line. Now if you turn left out of the car park, this is the first set of lights you'll come to. Make sure you stop about 3 metres behind the car in front. Generally speaking, depending on your height, you should be able to see, from 3 metres away from the car in front, you should be able to see the back tyres of that car in front and just a tiny bit of road under the tyres. Now you will need to adjust that depending on your height because tall people can see a lot more obviously. Now what a lot of people miss in Joondalup are merge points. A lot of lights have these merge points where the lanes spread out to 2 lanes at the traffic lights, and when we get through the lights they go back to 1 lane. Here we need to check our blind spot, look over our shoulder. As we drive down here, we just take it a bit easy because of the number of pedestrians that walk across the road there looking at their mobile phones. So there's a lot of potential hazards there. Once you get around this bend, it opens up a bit and we can get back up to the speed limit. Just making sure that we keep away from that white line on the left and drive on the road surface properly. Now as you come up to the next set of lights, we're currently 1 lane heading north. At the lights there are 2 lanes, you can see the dividing line there. So we've got a choice of lanes here. This time we'll take the left lane, we're going straight ahead. Now just ahead of us there is a form 1 lane sign. That's what you'll see at merge points. Not always, but it means that you need to get back into 1 lane over on the other side of the traffic lights. We come through here, because we're moving across to the right, we check our mirrors, we indicate right. We check our blind spot over our right shoulder and we drift across gradually, just using that curve on the left as your guide. You'll notice that when we went through those lights, we basically headed straight for that form 1 lane sign. You don't want to drift across into the path of the other cars as you're going through the intersection. Now we're going to turn left up here, but then straight away we're going to turn right at the next street. So we need to think ahead and choose the appropriate lane for the next manoeuvre. So we go directly to the right hand lane, leaving our left indicator on, and now we indicate right to move across. That's 1 manoeuvre instead of 2. Had we gone to the left lane, we would have then had to very quickly do a lane change, which might not have been possible if there were vehicles in the right hand lane. Now one of the things that drivers get wrong a lot of the time is a failure to look across to the other lane when entering a merge point. So here we go into the merge point now. We're actually going to stay left here, but we glance to our right, we indicate now that we've got past the side street, and because we're turning left here we just cut across these lines. Now we're going to turn left here and then take the first street on the right. So we go directly to the right hand lane to save ourselves doing that extra lane change. Now another thing that drivers get wrong all the time is indicating too early. We're going to turn left at the roundabout down here, but we can see there's a break in the curb here on our left because there's a fairly significant laneway going in there on the left. When we get past that laneway we can indicate left. If we indicate before that, we can potentially confuse people that are coming out of that lane, making them think that we're turning left into the lane when we're not. So if there's a break in the curb, it's a significant piece of road, you've got to wait until you get past it before you indicate. Now we're going to turn left here. We can see that white line on the road is sort of in our way, so we cut across this line to turn the corner. It just makes sense so that we can use a sensible, well-travelled path around that corner. Now something that a lot of people get wrong is not paying attention to give way signs. Up here we have a give way sign and a give way line. We're on the minor road, the other road is the major road, so we have to slow down. We can't see very well as we approach. There are various things. There's a billboard on our left, there's a building that comes down a fair way on our right. So we must pay due attention as we come through there. A lot of people try and come through there at close to full speed, and it's very, very dangerous. That used to be a stop sign. For some reason it was changed to a give way sign, which was a crazy move because it really should still be a stop sign. If you come through there too fast in your test, you'll likely fail because the assessor will have no choice but to put the foot on the brake. Okay, we've got pedestrians approaching the road here close to a give way line. In that case, you must give way. The give way says basically give way to everybody, cars and pedestrians. Okay, we're turning right at a traffic light that doesn't have an arrow to help us. The first car will move out past the white line when the light changes to green. We have to wait until we're satisfied that they've made it around. Then we move out towards the middle. If we've got good line of sight, then we can go. I could actually see from the driver's seat that it was clear then. Now the traffic's going fairly slowly along here. We just need to make sure that we maintain a 2-second gap behind the vehicle in front. Now that gap is obviously going to change in size depending on the speed of the car in front, but it's the distance that that vehicle would travel in 2 seconds. On a wet road you'd probably extend that out to 3 seconds. Now coming up here, we're turning right at the traffic light without an arrow. We move across to the right hand lane with our indicator on. The light is still green. The light went to amber. Because we were travelling slowly, we could stop in time, we could stop safely, so we just check our mirror and we put our brake on. Now when you're waiting at traffic lights, waiting to turn right, it's a good idea to keep account of the number of vehicles that are approaching you from the other side, so that when it is your turn to go, you'll know whether there are cars hidden behind the first cars in line. Now at the moment we know for sure that there is only one vehicle there. We've been counting them as they come up. So when the light changes, we are certain that the only car there is the red car. It's turning right, we're turning right, so we'll be able to go straight away. We're 100% sure that it's clear. Had we not been keeping an eye on those cars, we may have been a bit uncertain about whether there was a small vehicle or a motorbike hidden behind it. And in that case, you'd have to wait. So keep an eye on the cars and you can be a bit more certain about what's going on. Now up here we're turning left onto a 2-lane street. The traffic feeding from our right is coming across from 1 lane into 2. Now most of these vehicles are going to the right hand lane, but we're not allowed to go because some of them might drift across to the left. Now here we have a bus coming across to the left lane. A typical case of a vehicle coming from 1 lane on the other side of the intersection into the left lane of these 2. Now not all vehicles indicate left as they do that. So the important point there is that if you're turning left at that intersection, do not go if there are any vehicles coming through the intersection from your right. If you do go, you will fail. Okay, now if we're just going around again, I'm going to reiterate what I just talked about with this intersection and turning left and not going when there are vehicles coming from your right. This is the corner of Shenton Avenue and Grand Boulevard, and it's the only situation in Joondalup where you cannot go if there are vehicles coming from your right on a 2-lane road. And the reason for that is that most of the time the other side of the intersection is also 2 lanes, but in that particular intersection there, it's a 1-lane road feeding into a 2-lane road, and the cars coming from the 1-lane section can drift to the left lane or they can continue straight in the right lane. Very important point because we've had multiple drivers fail at that intersection. As unfair as it sounds, that's the way it's assessed, so you must be mindful of that. Now when you come up the traffic lights, there's a white dividing line close to the intersection, just here. Okay, now that white line varies in its length, but as a general guide, and this is only a general guide, if you're doing the speed limit approaching a traffic light and you have reached that solid white line, then you're probably too close to the intersection to stop when the light goes amber. A lot of people drive up on a green light, on what we call the stale green light, and they panic about what's going to happen if the light changes. So to help you out, you just assess whether your vehicle has reached that solid white line or not if you're doing the speed limit. And if you have reached the line, then you keep going. If you haven't yet reached the line, generally speaking, you can stop safely for yourself and safely for the vehicles behind you. Now just make sure we check the blind spot here as we go through. It's a merge point. So that general rule about the stopping distance of traffic lights, you can use that solid white line to help you out. Now if you're doing less than the speed limit, then that changes things because you can stop in a lot shorter distance. Again, driving along this section of road, we've always got pedestrians that are walking out between cars. So although the speed limit is 50, probably something like 35 to 40 would be more appropriate. Now this is the set of lights coming back towards the licensing centre. And if you've driven around Joondalup enough, you'll know from experience that this set of lights heading east-west always has an arrow with the green light, a green light and a green arrow. So having this car in front of us turning right doesn't really matter to us. We know that that car will clear the intersection as soon as we get a green light. If there was no arrow and there were two lanes like there are here, then you wouldn't come up behind a car that has its right indicator on, because the potential would be there for you to get stuck behind that car if you were trying to go straight. Okay, when we go through traffic lights, we have to check to the right and check to the left for your own safety. Check your blind spot just here. Now coming down to this roundabout, I'm going to turn left and then I'm going to turn right at the first set of lights. So you might think that you could drift straight to the right hand lane here when you turn the corner, but not so. This is a roundabout and you must stay within your lane all the way out of this roundabout. Get your indicator off, get onto the street, and then do a proper lane change. Check your mirrors, indicate, and check your blind spot. Cancel the indicator and then put it back on again for the next lane change, just to show that you haven't just accidentally left your indicator on. Okay, turning right onto Grand Boulevard from Shenton. Generally we go straight to the left lane and notice the speed sign. So this is 50 kilometres an hour along here, even though it's a dual carriageway. And the trap for drivers around here who haven't driven in Joondalup enough is that when you come off one of these side streets and turn onto Grand Boulevard, there is no speed sign. You just have to recognise the fact that it's a built-up area and that the speed limit is 50. So you do need to be very careful when you're on here that you don't exceed 50, particularly when you get over the crest of this hill and head down towards the traffic lights. Now coming up to this intersection here, this is a crossroad. We've got traffic going across this intersection and traffic coming from our right and our left. Now because it's a crossroad, we can't wait in the middle when we try and get across this street, because we have turning lanes both on our left and on our right. You can see a car just to our right there, waiting in the middle in the turning lane. You could potentially have cars in the turning lane in both directions, so you shouldn't be sitting out here in the middle blocking them. Now with pedestrians, we just need to take it easy through here, even though the speed limit's 50. And of course you wouldn't go around this corner at 50 anyhow, because it's a right angle corner. Now driving along here, you need to imagine that every single one of these cars has got a driver in it who's just going to fling the door open without looking. Now you look at this car here, it's not parked in the bay properly, but an open door would make it very difficult for us to get past. So when there's no one coming towards you, we can drive along close to the centre of the road, leaving a nice healthy 1.5 metre distance away from these cars. If you had someone coming towards you, you would then have to get back into your side of the road. It could be a large vehicle like a truck coming the other way. If you had to get into a situation where you were closer to the cars than you'd like, then you need to slow down, just like I'm doing now. And that way you'd be able to react if a door was open. But in this situation, just keep away from the cars, keep a nice healthy 1.5 metre clearance. Now we can't drive around this temporary obstacle here and drive over that solid white line. We have to wait for them to clear. The solid white line is there for a reason. It's to make things safe as you approach an intersection. Now we're just going to turn around here. We're going to use this little side street on the right to do a U-turn. Make sure you turn very late so that you use up the wide part of the intersection, but most importantly here, Look at that white line on the road in front of us. It's a stop line. Make sure you stop completely and then look around to work out who's coming. Don't look around on the approach to the stop line. You'll get distracted and you may roll through. Okay, we're going to do a U-turn here using a street on the left. So we indicate left and we just track around here as if we're turning left. We indicate right, we look over our right shoulder and we swing the car hard to the right. Again, looking at this solid white line on the road, we come up here and we stop completely. Then we look around and then we move away. That's the left and the right U-turn. Very common in Joondalup because of the absence of driveways. So you need to use side streets to turn the car around in the left something behind exercise. Okay, this street always has a lot of parked cars on both sides. As you come up, you need to check your mirrors, indicate, check your blind spot, move out if there's no one coming the other way, turn your indicator off because you're no longer turning right. As you go past the very last car, glance at the driver to make sure he's not taking off and you're indicating left to go back in again. Very important because you're moving the car from one side of the road to the other, so you've got to do those proper checks. Check your mirrors, indicate and check your blind spot. MIB, mirrors, indicate, blind spot. MIB, think Men in Black, MIB. That's the sequence you've got to do the checks in. If you're not a bit of a movie aficionado and you haven't heard of Men in Black, then what about the drink Milo, MILO, mirrors, indicate, look over, as in look over your shoulder. Either of those two acronyms will help you to remember the sequence. Now here's another street where passing parked cars is quite a common occurrence. Slow down to 20 for the corner. Then as we come around this dogleg here, you can see a car coming the other way. As we come around this dogleg, there's always parked cars here. Check your mirrors now, indicate to the right now. Check your blind spot over your right shoulder now and move clearly away from that car. Then turn your indicator off and look ahead. There's lots of cars on the right hand side of the road. Oh, here we come. There's a car coming the other way. So what we're going to have to do here is sort of get a little bit out of the way, maybe not get completely to the curb, but let this car through. So we move across and we just wait. We don't get too close to the car in front because that will make it too hard to get out. So we left this car plenty of clearance. Then we check our mirrors again, indicate, just quickly check over the shoulder. It's unlikely to be a car there because there was a car going in the other direction. As we get past this last car, glance across at the driver, indicate left, move back in, turn the indicator off, and then we'll turn left up here. Now this is a give way line, a dotted line on the road, so we're not expected to stop if there's nobody coming. Okay, again we have parked cars here. We check our mirrors, we indicate, we check our blind spot, we move out, we cancel the indicator. In this case we can move back in because it's a bit of a blind corner and it's quite a distance to the next car. Okay, check our mirrors, indicate, check our blind spot, move out, cancel the indicator, look at the driver of that car, indicate left, move back in. Now at this T-junction we're going to turn right. There is no central refuge area on this road. So we come down as close to the give-way line as we can. We look both ways. There is a car coming from our left and our right. Okay, we look again. The last thing we do is look left again. It's clear, but we must complete the turn in one go because there was no central refuge area there. You can see the width of the median strip there. It's very narrow. All we've got there is a dividing line in the middle of the road. It's the same with this intersection up here. Anyone turning off the side street there onto this road, heading in the direction we're going, would have to complete the manoeuvre in one move because there's nowhere to hide. The next street on the right, it does have a central refuge area. It's the width of that turning lane basically, so anyone coming out of that side street there turning right would wait in this area just here. They could complete the manoeuvre in two goes. Here's a change of speed limit, signs on both sides of the road. We must have slowed down to 50 by the time we get there. Now I was doing 60 earlier because I have local knowledge of the Joondalup area, but most of the time you would do 50 if you weren't sure about the speed limit. Speed signs are pretty random around Joondalup. Having said that, there is one just here on the right, hidden behind the trees. But quite often you'll drive along and you won't really know what the speed limit is for quite some time. So if you're not sure, do 50. The assessor might tell you what the speed limit is if they're aware that it's a road that should have a sign that doesn't have one, but there's no guarantee. So you can't risk it by doing more than the speed limit if you're unsure, more than the default speed limit. Now that's probably enough for today. That gives you a bit of a heads up on some of the aspects of driving around Joondalup that you need to be aware of for your driving test. If you like what you're seeing on our channel, then please subscribe and come back regularly to see what else we have to offer. Thanks very much for watching.